Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning everyone. So first kali kena test mic dulu. Test screen. Sebab hari tu dekat 5 minit. Sebab screen saja. Okay, so now test everything. Can you see clearly? Can you hear me clearly? Is everything okay? Okay. Fatahin kata okay. Okay lah tu. Zai Husna pun kata okay. Okay lah kot. Oh, by the way, since you guys haven't been to KMK before, that is actually our lecture hall. That is a small lecture hall. Dewan kuliah kecil, yang kecil punya. Kita ada yang besar. Yang besar dia muat 250 orang. Full capacity lah 250. Yang ni yang kecil punya, dia dalam 150 je. Tapi saya tak ingat ni dewan kuliah berapa. Kita semua sekali ada 4 dewan kuliah kecil, 2 kuliah besar. Selamat pagi. Okay, so now last time we have learned about equations. So we have done 1 hour on the equations. So what we are going to do next is about the inequalities. Okay, so done with equation. Now we are at subtopic 2.2, inequalities, where we are going to learn how to solve the linear, the quadratic, as well as the rational inequalities. Rational over here means that we do have some fractions, so px over qx. Those are rational inequalities. Quadratic, that means the highest power of x, of course, should be x squared. Linear, the highest power of x will be x to the power of 1. Okay, now the learning outcome for today. So firstly, you should be able to relate the properties of inequalities. So we are going to start with A greater than B, and then we are going to see if we are doing some addition, some subtraction, some multiplication, what will happen to this symbol over here. So that is what happened with the properties of inequalities. And then B, solve the linear inequality. So we are going to see the method in order to solve linear inequalities. So basically I have two methods. Either we are going to rearrange or I'm going to split them into two inequalities. So later on, we're going to see why do I say we are going to split them into two. And then the third one is that we are going to solve the quadratic inequalities by using graphical approach. So of course, you know, like quadratic, it will either be a smile graph or a set graph. And then we're going to see which region that is. Okay, solve rational inequalities involving linear expression. What does it mean by solving rational inequalities involving linear expression? That means that you should be able to factorize everything into linear. So it might looks like x plus 1 over x minus 2, or it will be x plus 1 and then x minus 1 over x minus 2. So you should be able to express them in linear. Okay, so that is for D. So let us proceed to A first. Relate the properties of inequalities. Okay, so properties of inequalities, basically I can say that we have 4 properties of inequalities. So these are the 4 properties of inequalities. So we have to start if A greater than B. So A is definitely greater than B. A is greater than B. If we are doing some addition or some subtraction to that number, which means that you either do A plus C or A minus C, what will happen is that the inequality sign will stay the same. So it won't change because we are simply doing the addition or subtraction. So kalau tambah atau tolak, you don't have to change the inequality sign. Okay, what happen if we are doing some multiplication? For multiplication, it depends. Either are you multiply with a positive number or are you multiplying with some negative number? So they are slightly different. Okay, so we say over here that A will be greater than B if let's say you times with C and C is a positive number. So perhaps C is equal to 1 to 1.5 and so on. So some positive number. So if you times with some positive number, the inequality sign will stay the same. So it won't change. However, if you are multiplying with some negative number, for example, let's say C equal to -1, negative half, or perhaps negative what? -5 and so on, what will happen is that we are going to flip the inequality sign. So instead of having greater than, we are going to change it to less than. If we have less than, we are going to flip them to greater than. So this is more specifically when you are doing multiplication or division with a negative number. If you simply do plus or minus, so addition or subtraction, you're going to keep the sign. If you are multiplying with some positive number, the inequality sign will stay the same. But if you are actually multiplying with some negative number, you should flip the sign. Okay, so one more thing, A greater than B. If let's say we are taking the reciprocal for them, or if let's say we are doing 1 over that, so A greater than B, then if you are doing 1 over A, 1 over B, you are going to flip the sign as well. Okay, so for example, 2 is greater than 1. So if let's say you are doing 1 over 2, this is 1 over 1. Of course, 1 over 2 is less than 1 over 1. So that is how you know that you are going to flip the sign. Okay, so we only flip the sign whenever we are multiplying or dividing with some negative number, or if you are taking the reciprocal, if you are doing 1 over something. Okay, so that is the properties of inequalities. 4 properties of inequalities. Okay, next. So now we are going to use them to solve the linear inequalities. Okay, so basically for linear inequalities, right, solving inequalities more specifically for linear, I can actually separate them into two methods. The first one is that we are going to rearrange. Rearrange, that means I'm going to bring all the x to one side, all the numbers to the other side. So that is what I mean by rearrange. I'm going to collect all the like term. So all the x will go to the left, all the numbers will go to the right. So that is for rearrange. The second method, if you can see what are the difference between these two. Over here, you only have one inequalities. For this one, you actually have two. So you have two inequalities. Therefore, you should separate them into two different inequalities and then find the intersection between those two answers. So what will happen is that you are going to separate them. So we are going to solve this left hand side first. So solve x less than 2x minus 1. And then you are going to solve for the right hand side, which is 2x minus 1 less than 3x plus 2. And then since you do have something in between, it must happen at the same time. Therefore, we must write down n. That means after you know what is the answer on the left hand side, and what is the answer on the right hand side, we are going to find the intersection between these two answers. So that is basically the method for them. If you have only one inequalities, always make sure to rearrange them, collect all the x to the left and then solve them. If let's say you have two different inequalities, do make sure to separate them into two inequalities, solve them one by one, and then make sure to combine your answer by using intersection. Okay, next, let us see some example then. Okay, so give the solution set for the following. So basically for solution, we can have two types of solution. So you can either write down your solution in the set form or you can write them down in interval form. So set or interval. So basically for this question, give the solution set. So I basically want them in solution set. Later on in example 2, we are going to see how can we write them down in interval form. Okay, so give the solution set for the following. So we basically have 4x minus 5 less than 2x plus 9. So check first how many inequalities do you have. So we only have one. That means we should rearrange. Okay, so how do we rearrange them? So all the x will go to the left, all the numbers will go to the right hand side. So I will have something like 4x minus 2x less than 9 plus with 5. Of course, for x minus 2x, you can actually simplify them. So it will become 2x less than 14. And then we need to make x as the subject. Therefore, you should divide everything by 2. So 2 is actually a positive number. So since you are dividing with some positive number, you don't have to flip the sign. So x will stay as x less than 7. Okay, so we keep the sign because this is a positive number. You are dividing with some positive number. Make sure don't change the inequality sign. Okay, so now how are we going to write them down in solution set? Okay, so in solution set, you will need to have the set notation, of course. So those curly bracket represent the set notation. And then whatever your answer over here will be inside, x less than 7. But you need to write down one more thing, which is x such that. So this is what they mean over here. X such that x will be less than 7. So that is how we are going to write them down in solution set. Okay, next example. Right, so now, again, solution set for this one. 3x plus 5 greater than or equal to x minus with 7. So do check how many inequalities do you have. Okay, so we only have one inequalities and everything is actually a linear. Therefore, we just need to rearrange them. So bring all the x to the left, all the numbers go to the right. So we got 3x minus x greater than or equal to negative 7, negative 5. And then of course, simplify a little bit, 3x minus with x, that one will become 2x, negative 7, negative 5, negative 12 then. So we got 2x greater than or equal to negative 12. And then you might be wondering what happened if we are taking x as the subject. Therefore, we need to get rid of these 2. So I have to divide 2 on both sides. But 2 is a positive number, so I don't really need to change the inequality sign. I don't have to change the inequality sign. Therefore, x will be greater than or equal to negative 6. Right, so we must give our answer in solution set form. So do remember, solution set, you need those curly bracket and then simply write down x greater than or equal to negative 6. But in front over here, you must have x such that. Okay, so those are our solution set. So the solution set is x such that x greater than or equal to negative 6. Okay, so now let us go to example 2. Okay, example 2. Solve the following inequalities and write the answer in interval form. Okay, so see how many inequalities do you have? You actually have 2, one left, one right hand side. Therefore, you can split them into 2 and solve them one by one. Okay, so split them into 2 first. So we got negative x plus 4 over 2 greater than or equal to negative 2. So this is the left hand side. So I flip the sign because I want the x to be on the left. So it started with negative 2 less than or equal to negative x plus 4 over 2. But I want the x to stay on the left hand side. So that is how I flip my inequality sign. Okay, so negative x plus 4 over 2 greater than or equal to negative 2. And another one is on the right hand side. So we got negative x plus 4 over 2 less than or equal to 9. And then of course, they must happen at the same time. So remember, right in the middle, you should write down n because they must happen at the same time. Okay, so now we are going to focus on the left hand side and then we are going to try to solve them and find out what is x. What are the region for x? Okay, so negative x plus 4 over 2 greater than or equal to negative 2. Okay, so firstly, what happened? I want to make x as the subject. So this is some number. So I can simply times with 2 on the left and times 2 on the right hand side to get rid of the 2. So it will become negative x plus 4 greater than or equal to negative 4. So we don't have to flip the sign because I simply multiply with 2 on the left and 2 on the right. And 2 is a positive number, so we don't have to flip the sign. Okay, so now negative x plus 4 greater than or equal to negative 4. You are making x as your subject. So firstly, I'm going to bring positive 4 to the right. So minus 4 on both sides. So we got negative x greater than or equal to negative 8. And then, of course, you want to make sure you have only x as your subject. So now we should do something with this negative sign. So divide both with negative 1. However, you are dividing with some negative number, right? Do remember to flip your inequality sign. So it will become x less than or equal to 8. So again, why did we change the inequality sign? That is because we are multiplying or dividing with some negative number. Therefore, you should flip the inequality sign. Okay, so that is basically the region on the left hand side. I already have x as my subject. So I already have the region or the answer on the left. So now we should solve the right hand side and see what is the answer for them. Okay, so similar idea, we actually have 2 in our denominator. So I'm going to times with 2. But of course, 2 is simply a positive number. So we don't have to flip the sign. So negative x plus 4 less than or equal to 18. And then, of course, I need to get rid of the positive 4. So we are going to minus 4 on both sides. So subtract 4, don't have to change the inequality sign. So negative x is simply less than or equal to 14. And then we are trying to make x as the subject. Okay, so now we need to get rid of negative 1 in front of the x. So in order to get rid of the negative 1, you should times with negative 1 times with negative 1. But since you are multiplying with some negative number, you should flip the sign. So x will be greater than or equal to negative 4. Irfan tanya, Madam, kalau kita ubah x tu pergi kanan boleh tak? Boleh, tak ada masalah. Awak nak ubah pergi kanan, yang ni pergi kiri kan? So nanti kita akan dapat 8 greater than or equal to x. Tapi jangan lupa kena flip balik lah. So x will be less than or equal to 8. That will be okay as well, Irfan. Okay. Right, so now we have the answer on the right hand side, x greater than or equal to negative 14, and the answer on the left hand side, x less than or equal to 8. So what should we do next is that we should find the intersection between these two answers. Okay, so draw one number line, we got to find the intersection. Okay, so number line, negative 14 is on the left, 8 is on the right hand side. So greater than or equal to negative 14. A then circle at negative 14. Tak bagilah buat circle. Tak apalah. Ni dulu. Okay. A then circle at negative 14 going to the right hand side. And then less than or equal to 8. So you start from 8. Going to the left hand side. Okay. So now we got to find the intersection. Of course, you can easily see, right, those two lines. The intersection is right in the middle over here. Therefore, your answer is negative 14 up until 8. Okay, so the solution interval. Okay, so do check. This is solution interval. Negative 14 up until 8. So you must write down in bracket. So dalam bracket tu dia adalah solution interval. Kalau dalam solution set, then you're going to say x such that this is negative 14 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 8. So that is solution set. Kena tulis dalam bentuk set tu lah. Okay, so done with number 2A. So now 2B. Okay, solve the following inequalities and write the answer in interval form. Okay, so let me try to give you around 2 minutes for you to try. and gonna check your answer with me later on. So saya bagi masa sampai 8:21. Nanti saya bagi answer. So do check what method do you want to use. Macam ramai yang tak ada je. Ramai pergi ambil vaksin kot hari ni. Ramai juga yang mesej saya cakap dia pergi ambil vaksin. Do you have your answer? Got the answer? Cik, 1 minit aku tanya dapat answer ke tak? Sabar je lah. Dapat. Oh, laju Anis Natasha. Dapat dah. Okay, 8:21 dah. Okay, so now let us check our answer then. So do check how many inequalities that you have. So basically, of course, you're going to see you have 2 inequalities. So what happened? Split them to 2. So you got 4 minus x greater than 6. Another one is 4 minus x less than or equal to 12. This step over here, make sure you write down the correct inequalities. Kena check lah, double check ke triple check ke, mesti kena check lah. Pastikan yang ni betul dulu. Sebab kalau yang ni salah, bye-bye lah. Okay, so now we are going to make x as the subject. So negative x is greater than 2, so x will be less than negative 2. So we're going to flip the sign because we are multiplying with some negative number. So do make sure to flip the sign. Check your sign. Make sure they are correct. Okay, and then negative x less than or equal to 8. So x will be greater than or equal to negative 8. So we already have the answer on the left hand side. We have the answer on the right hand side. So now we are going to combine them into one, where we are going to calculate the intersection. Okay, so negative 8 definitely stay on the left, negative 2 on the right hand side. So I have starting from negative 8 going to the right hand side. This one must be a dense circle. And then negative 2 going to the left, an empty circle because there is no equal sign at negative 2. The intersection is somewhere in between. So the answer for this is negative 8 up until negative 2. But be extra careful with your solution interval. You should write down the square bracket at negative 8 because we are including negative 8. But a simple bracket or an open bracket at negative 2 because we are not going to include negative 2. So yang ni kena pastikan betul lah. Okay, so kalau betul, tahniah. So let us proceed to the third learning outcome for today, which is the quadratic inequalities. Okay, so now part C, how to solve the quadratic inequalities. Okay, so basically, memang saya bagi mind map je tau, saya tak bagi yang apa orang kata, yang ayat-ayat banyak tu sebab saya rasa kadang-kadang mind map lagi senang nak faham. Okay, so solving quadratic inequalities, there are actually 2 methods to solve them. You can use algebraic method or you can use graphical method. But for me, I'll say better to use graphical. It will be easier for us. Okay, graphical method. Okay, what is the quadratic? Quadratic can be ax squared plus bx plus c. So of course, when you draw the quadratic graph, that totally depends on the value of a. So you can either have a smile graph or a set graph. So basically, a smile graph is whenever the a is greater than 0 a set graph will be for A less than 0. So it's either A is positive number or A is negative number. Okay, so see this one, the first one. So see your curve over there. So those P and Q, those are the critical value that you find after you factorize them. Bila factorize, cari root dia berapa kan? So those are P and Q. Okay, so now see the x-axis. X-axis, which region that is above the x-axis? So it will be one on the left hand side and one on the right hand side. So that is for y greater than 0 whenever x is less than p or x greater than q. Less than p, that means starting from p going to the left hand side. Greater than q, starting from q going to the right hand side. So those are the region for x less than p or x greater than q. So for x less than p or x greater than q, the graph is actually above our x-axis. Therefore, the value of y will be a positive value. For x in between p and q, so x in between p and q, as you can see over here, the curve is actually below the x-axis. So that is for a negative value, or y will be less than 0. So y greater than 0, that means a positive value of y. Y less than 0, that means a negative value of y. Okay, so what happened for a less than 0? So a less than 0, of course, you're going to have those set curve. Okay, those set curve. So referring to your x-axis, this is the x-axis. So above the x-axis, so those are somewhere in between P and Q. So this is a positive value of y because it is above the x-axis. So we are going to get some positive value when x is in between P and Q. However, for below the x-axis, which is either x less than P or x greater than Q, so x less than P or x greater than Q, the value is a negative because we do have something that is below the x-axis. So above the x-axis, the value is positive. Below the x-axis, the value is negative. Okay, so normally for me, I'll make sure to have a positive A. So sebab tu biasanya saya akan guna graf yang pertama lah. Jarang-jarang saya guna graf yang nombor 2. Biasanya saya guna graf yang pertama. Okay, so let us see some example. Graphical method, I think I have around 2 example for this. Miss, what if the x is equal? So we only have one value of x, right? Okay. Let's say you have one value of x. Okay, x minus 1 square. Okay, what does it mean if you draw your graph, right? So this is 1. Oh, tak lawa, tapi you get the idea, right? It's supposed to be a quadratic, a very good smile graph. Okay, so as you can see for this kind of question, right? The value of y is always above the x-axis. So nilai untuk x adalah sentiasa positif. So y greater than 0 for all values of x. Yang ini kiranya akan sentiasa positif lah. Sama juga kalau kata graf tu ada yang tergantung ataupun apa. Katalah tergantung macam ni kan. Tergantung ke atas. So yang ini pun sama lah. Y greater than 0 for all values of x. Kalau dia tergantung dekat bawah, then always negative for all values of x. So dia depends on the graph lah. Tapi nampak kan curve tu, tak apalah, tak cantik nak buat macam mana. Inferior aku buat lukisan ni. Okay, next. Okay, solve the following inequalities by using graphical approach. So we got x squared plus 6x plus 5 greater than 0. Okay, so what do you need to see? what we need to check. So this is a quadratic graph, of course. Check the value of A first. So the value of A is positive, right? So A is positive. Okay, so factorize completely. So you are going to get x plus 5, x plus 1 greater than 0. So you now know what are the roots for them. So negative 5 and negative 1. So now you're going to draw the curve. So negative 5, negative 1. So that is basically the curve. Okay, so just in case you guys didn't know, how do I get negative 5 and negative 1? So you let each of the factor equal to 0. So you are going to get x equal to negative 5 and x equal to negative 1. So that is how you can get this number over here. Okay, so now if we refer to the note that we have previously, we are going to get some positive value when x is less than negative 5. So that means from here to the left hand side or negative 1 to the right hand side. So either x less than negative 5 or x greater than negative 1. And we can get a negative value when x is in between negative 5 and negative 1. So this is based on the note that we have earlier. Okay, so how do we choose our region? Okay, so if let's say this is your y, right? Because this is your graph, so of course this is your y. So now we want to find out the answer for y greater than 0. So y greater than 0 is this region over here. Therefore, your answer will be x less than negative 5 or x greater than negative 1. So that totally depends on the sign over here. Do you want something that is greater than 0 or do you want something that is less than 0? Oh, by the way, if you have the equal sign at 0 over here, then this symbol over here will be less than or equal to negative 5 and x greater than or equal to negative 1. So the equal sign, you need to follow the question. If your question got some equal sign, you will have your equal sign for your answer as well. Okay, so done with the first one. Let us proceed with the second one. Okay, so 3x multiply with x minus 5 less than or equal to 2, 2x minus with 3. So we couldn't really see, is it a quadratic, linear or whatever that is. Therefore, rearrange everything first. Expand, rearrange first so that we can easily see what is the highest power for them. Okay, so expand, you should be able to see that this is 3x squared minus 19x plus with 6 less than or equal to 0. So this is basically a quadratic inequalities. So if you have a quadratic inequalities, you should be able to factorize them completely. So factorize completely sebab kita nak cari root dia berapa kan. Okay, factorize completely. You are going to get 3x minus 1, x minus 6 less than or equal to 0. Okay, so now what happened next? You should draw your graph. So in order to draw your graph, you might want to find out the root first. So 3x minus 1 equal to 0. X will be equal to 1 over 3. X minus 6 equal to 0. X will be equal to 6. So that means when you draw your smile graph, it should cut at negative, and at half, no, 1/3 and 6. Eish. The graph should cut at 1 over 3 and 6. Okay, so 1 over 3, 6. Okay, so now if you refer to the one that I give you in your notes, the value of y will be positive when x is less than 1 over 3 or x greater than 5. Oh, let me erase that one. Okay, so y will be a positive answer when x is less than 1 over 3 or x greater than 6. So either on the left hand side or right hand side. And then another one, we are going to get some negative value when x is in between 1 over 3 and 6. Okay, so now refrain. to this function over here. So let this one as your y. So you are looking at y less than or equal to 0. So y less than or equal to 0. That means you are looking for this region. So we are going to get something that is less than 0 when x is in between 1 over 3 and 6. Since you do have the equal sign over here, that means both of them should take the equal sign as well. So the final answer is 1 over 3 and 6. Or if you want to write them down in set notation, so this 1 over 3 such that x. So something like this. X such that x in between and including 1 over 3 as well as 6. So if you are using interval, make sure to use the square brackets. Okay, so now linear done, quadratic done. So now the most famous part of inequalities, and most of the question that we are going to handle will be D, the fourth learning outcome for today, which is the rational inequalities. Biasanya kadang-kadang kita suka bagi rational sebab rational ni nanti dia pening-pening-pening lepas tu dia tak boleh jawab. Okay, D, solve rational inequalities. Okay, so in order to solve rational inequalities, for me, I have two methods. So either I'm using the real number line or I'm using the table of signs. So we can actually have two. Apa, Elisha? Miss, jawapan memang kena tulis dua cara tu ke? Yes. Kalau soalan tu dia tak cakap kena pakai cara apa, maksudnya they didn't say either to write down your answer in solution set or solution interval, that means you can choose either one. If they say solution set, then you must only give solution set. If they say solution interval, then you must give solution interval. Otherwise, either one will do. Tapi mesti dalam dua bentuk tu. Okay, method, real number line or table of sign. Okay, so what are the differences between them? Okay, so for real number line, basically we are going to draw a number line for each of our answer. So over here going to the right hand side, over here going to the right hand side, and then plus plus, minus minus minus. So yang ni untuk real number line lah. For table of sign, we are going to test the value of x, and then we're going to see whether are they going to give us a positive answer or negative answer. So later on, I'll teach you both. So saya ajar dua-dua, and then boleh pilih lah yang mana awak lebih selesa. Kalau tanya saya lebih selesa method yang pertama. Tapi ada setengah orang dia macam tak berapa nak boleh masuk method yang pertama. So dia lebih prefer method yang kedua. Tak kisahlah, mana-mana pun boleh asalkan dapat jawapan. Tapi jangan campur-campur lah. Kalau nak pakai real number line dari awal lagi memang pakai real number line saja. Tak payah campur-campur dengan table of signs. Kalau nak pakai table of sign, pakai table of sign saja. So saya ajar dua-dua. Then you choose something that is more suitable for you. Sebab setiap orang berbeza kan. Macam saya suka pakai real number line. So itu untuk saya lah. Tapi kalau saya ajar, saya boleh pakai dua-dua lah. Okay, so now I'm going to teach you for both. Okay, so the first example, we are going to do the real number line. The second example, we are going to do the table of sign. Okay, so now the first method, real number line. Okay, so find the solution set of the following inequalities. So I already mentioned that you need to find the solution set. Therefore, your answer need to be in the solution set. So I don't accept any solution interval, of course. Okay, so before you start with either using the real number line or table of sign, you should check your inequalities first. What kind of inequalities of these? So you have x at the top, you have x at the bottom, therefore this is a fraction, so you know for sure this is a rational inequalities. So masa tu kita tahulah dia adalah rational inequalities because we have a fraction and then basically x at the top and x at the bottom as well. So this is rational inequalities. So that is the first one. You should know what kind of inequalities you are handling. And then the second one, you got to make sure that your right hand side is already 0. So that is a must. The right hand side need to be 0. If they are not 0, then you should bring it to the left hand side first before you simplify them. So we're gonna see them in B. So the first one, terima je lah dulu. Belah kanan kena kosong. Kalau bukan kosong, mesti kena adjust bawa ke kiri dulu, bagi sebelah kanan kosong. That is a must. Mesti wajib lah kanan tu kosong. Oops. Ter. Ter. Salah tekan, sorry. Okay, right hand side need to be equal to 0, and then you must make sure that everything is factorized completely. So that means if let's say you do have some quadratic at the top or even at the bottom, you must make sure to factorize them completely. So kalau kata ada quadratic, mesti kena factorize completely. Yang ni sebab dia example yang lecture kan, so example senang saja, saya bagi yang linear saja. But if let's say you do end up with a quadratic either at the top, at the bottom, or perhaps both, you must make sure to factorize them completely. Okay, next, what should we do? For each of the factor, we are going to let them be greater than 0. So numerator, it can either be greater than 0 or greater than or equal to 0. So this one totally depends on this symbol over here. Do you have an equal sign or you don't have any equal sign? If you have an equal sign, therefore you should choose greater than or equal to 0. For denominator, there is no choice. You must always use greater than 0. We cannot choose greater than or equal to 0 because our denominator cannot be equal to 0. Otherwise, everything will be undefined. So that is why we need to avoid having 0 in our denominator. So for your denominator, take the factor and let them to be greater than 0. For numerator, you should check your question. Do you have any equal sign or not? If you have an equal sign in your inequalities, therefore you should choose greater than or equal to 0. Kalau kat atas ni memang tak ada equal, maksudnya kita memang pilih yang tak ada equal lah untuk semua. Okay, so now my numerator is x minus 2, just in case yang masih belum mahir numerator dengan denominator. Numerator, denominator. So numerator is at the top, denominator is at the bottom. Okay, so now you're gonna let your numerator to be greater than or equal to 0. So I choose greater than or equal to 0 together with 0 because I have 0 in my question. So dia ada simbol equal kan? So saya akan ambil greater than or equal to 0. And then for denominator, I simply choose x plus 4 greater than 0 without the equal sign because that is actually at my denominator. So always greater than 0. Okay, so solving them, you are going to get x greater than or equal to 2, x greater than negative 4. So you will have 2. X greater than or equal to 2, x greater than or equal to negative 4. So since the method itself is called the real number line, therefore we need to draw our number line. So draw your number line. So make sure everything is in ascending order, which number will be on the left, which number will be on the right. Make sure you got them right. Yang ni kena betul lah ya, positif, negatif, siapa kecil, siapa besar, siapa kiri, siapa kanan, yang ni mesti kena betul. And then we simply gonna draw our number line. So this is for x greater than or equal to 2. So make sure you have a dense circle at 2 going to the right hand side. So this is for x greater than or equal to 2. The second one is for x greater than negative 4. So open circle at negative 4 going to the right hand side. Okay. Sampai sini okay? Boleh sampai sini. So far. Saya memang pakai greater than je. Later I tell you why we use greater than 0 and we didn't use less than 0. Okay, so far okay. Right. Okay, so the reason why I'm using only greater than 0 is because I want to find out the region that will give me a positive answer. Okay, so now x greater than 2, for example, a number over here, let's say you have 5, right? If let's say you substitute 5 into here, 5 minus 2, that value is definitely greater than 0. So I know whatever value of x, as long as the value of x is greater than 2, if I substitute into x minus 2, that one will give me a positive answer. Lagi sekali ya, saya ulang. Okay, so this is for x minus 2, right? So I got x greater than or equal to 2. That means if I choose any number over here and I substitute into x minus 2, I'm going to get some positive number. So for example, I choose 5 over here. So 5 minus 2, this is a positive number. On the right hand side of 2, let's say 3. So 3 minus 2, this is also a positive number. So sebab tu saya tahulah atas line saya akan letak positif. Okay, so now the second one. This is for x plus 4. So for x plus 4, I have negative 4 going to the right hand side. That means any number that I choose, as long as it is on the right hand side of negative 4, everything will be positive. So cubalah masukkan, katalah kat sini kosong kan. Okay, kosong tambah 4 kan dapat positif. Okay, why is that? That is because this one over here, saya memang dah define siap-siap, saya memang nak cari benda yang positif. Sebab tu bila saya buat number line, saya tahu on top of my line, I always need to make sure to write down positif. Sebab saya memang dah cari region yang positif dari awal. Kalau macam Irfan tadi, dia kata kalau dia nak buat less than boleh tak? Okay, katakanlah dia buat less than dekat sini kan. Dia buat x plus 4 less than 0. So, x less than negative 4 kan. Since dia buat untuk less than 0, masa dia lukis negative 4 ke kiri, dia kena letak negatif. Dia tak akan letak positif macam saya lah. Tapi kalau awak nak elakkan daripada perasaan confused ke apa kan, nasihat saya lah, positifkan saja. Lebih senang. Boleh ke? Sampai sini? Boleh? Okay, I repeat, okay? Right, so this is for x minus 2 greater than or equal to 0. And then x plus 4 greater than 0. So I know on top of my line, they should be positive. Those without the line, we will write down negative. So positive, positive, negative, positive, negative, negative. Atas line saya letak positif sebab saya memang letak region kat sini positif lah. So ingat satu benda je, mudah sikit lah. Okay, so now I want to get a conclusion for this. If I have some negative number here and some negative number here, so negative divide with a negative number, it should give me a positive region. Negative together with a positive, this one should give me a negative region. Positive together with a positive region, that is a positive region. So sekarang kita bahagilah kiranya answer atas dengan answer bawah sebab simbol kat sini bahagi kan. So kita nak bahagi. Negatif bahagi negatif. Negatif bahagi positif. Positif bahagi dengan positif. So we got positive, negative, positive. Okay, to choose your answer, you need to refer back to your question. Is this less than 0 or is it greater than 0? So when we are referring back to the question, you should see that this is for something that is less than 0. Less than 0, that means I'm looking for a negative answer. So this is my answer. So the final answer for this is, oops, terbuat ni pula. Okay, the final answer is negative 4, 2. But this is in solution interval, right? In solution set, that will be x such that negative 4 less than X less than sekejap nak kena padam lagi. Suka betul letak equal ni. Okay. Okay, done. Right, so you can either write them down like this or like this. But since the question asks for solution set, kena bagi yang belakang lah, tak boleh bagi yang depan. Okay, so macam ni kita buat, factorize completely, kemudian ambil each factor, besarkan dia daripada kosong. Once you let them to be greater than 0, solve them, then draw your number line. On top of the line, write down positive, positive, positive. Those without the line, negative, negative, negative. And then you simply divide all the sign. Bahagi ke, nak darab ke, tak kisahlah. Sama je. And then make sure to have your final answer below. Excuse me. And then to choose your answer, referring back to your question. And then choose depends on the question. Okay, next. So that is A. Now let us proceed to B. So sekali kalau tak faham boleh tanya kat tutor . Okay, so now find the solution set for this one. So we got 3x plus 1 over x plus 4 less than or equal to 1. Okay, so do you guys remember the first thing that I told you is that you must make sure that the right hand side is equal to 0. So since the right hand side of this one is not equal to 0, therefore I should bring it to the left hand side. Oh, by the way, nampak kan ni adalah rational because we have x in our numerator and x in our denominator. So this is a rational inequalities. Okay, so we got to bring 1 to the left hand side. So bring 1 to the left hand side. Okay, so we got 3x plus 1 over x plus 4 minus 1 less than or equal to 0. So once dah bawa pergi sebelah kiri, so satu ada fraction, one without the fraction. One has a fraction minus something without fraction. Therefore, we need to have a common denominator. So change everything into a common denominator. So you will have something like 3x plus 1 minus 1 multiply with x plus 4 over 3x plus 4 less than or equal to 0. So this step over here, we say this is a common denominator. So we're going to change everything to make sure everything has a common denominator. Samakan pembawah kita tak buat cross multiply, kita samakan pembawah sahaja. Okay, and then of course you should simplify them because we need to factorize them completely. So simplify first and then see if you have something with quadratic, you might want to factorize them further. Okay, so simplify. You see that this is 2x minus 3 over x plus 4 less than or equal to 0. So this is actually our question. Memanglah soalan yang atas tu pun soalan awak, tapi nak katanya inilah yang kita nak buat, either table of sign ataupun real number line. Okay, so 2x minus 3 over x plus 4 less than or equal to 0. Okay, so now I already teach you how to do the real number line. So this time it is about the table of sign. Okay, table of sign. How are we going to do table of sign? So of course, like the name itself, you need to draw a table. Okay, so draw a table. The first one need to be for the interval. So yang sebelah kiri ni, dua ni boleh follow lah. Interval, value of x. This one, that totally depends on your question. So your question is 2x minus 3 over x plus 4. So take the first factor over here and the second factor over here, 2x minus 3, x plus 4. And then yang bawah ni kalau tak nak tulis soalan balik, boleh letak conclusion. Either one. Kalau ada 3 factor lah kan, katakanlah kita ada x plus 1, x minus 1, and then x plus 2. Dan maksudnya dekat table tu, dia kena ada 3 jugalah. X plus 1, x minus 1, x plus 2. Lepas tu bawah sekali baru conclusion. Kalau ada 4, samalah. Kena ada 4 jugalah. Katalah ada satu lagi, x pula dah kat depan ni ha. So x. Yang ni semua kena follow tau. You must follow how many factor that you have. Okay, so done with that. How do we get our interval? Okay, you need to know what are the critical value first. So kita kena cari dulu setiap satu tu kita samakan dengan kosong, cari critical value dulu. Okay, so you're gonna let 2x minus 3 equal to 0. So x will be equal to 3 over 2. And then x plus 4 equal to 0, x will be equal to negative 4. So if you draw your number line, 1 is negative 4, 1 is 3 over 2. So negative 4 will stay on the left hand side, 3 over 2 will stay on the right hand side. Therefore, in our number line, we are going to separate them into 3 intervals. So first, second, third. The first interval is starting from negative infinity up until negative 4. So this one over here. The second one is negative 4 up until 3 over 2. The third one is 3 over 2 up until infinity. And then for the value of x you should choose something that is inside the interval. So yang ini between negative infinity until negative 4, the one inside the interval is negative 5. So I choose negative 5. But if you don't want to choose negative 5, you can choose negative 10, negative 20, negative 100 and so on. So kena tengoklah nombor apa yang dalam interval. So negative 4 up until 3 over 2. So I choose the easiest one, which is 0. But if you don't want to use 0, you can use negative 1, 1. You can choose negative 2, negative 3 and so on. It doesn't really matter. So this one over here, 3 over 2 until infinity. So I'm choosing 2. If you don't want 2, you can choose any number yang berada dalam interval tu. Nak pilih 10 ke, 18 ke, 7 ke, lucky 7 kan, 7 ke. Ikut sukalah. Apa pun tak apa. Okay, so what happened next is that we are going to substitute each value of x into the factor. So for example over here, 2x minus 3. So substitute 2 multiply with negative 5 and then you minus with 3. So the only thing that we want is the sign. Is it a positive or is it negative? So negative 10, negative 3. So this is a negative answer. So this is negative. And then substitute with 0. So 2 times with 0 minus with 3. And then this one 2 times 2 minus 3. What is the sign? Same thing over here. So the value of x is negative 5. The factor is x plus 4. So negative 5 plus 4. 0 plus 4. And then 2 plus 4. So we only want the sign. Is it positive or negative? Okay. Once you already have the sign, you want to check or you want to calculate the conclusion. So a negative number divide with a negative number, it will become positive. Negative divide with positive, negative. Positive divide with positive, so it will become positive. Okay, so again, I repeat, how do you get the negative? Hilang dah mouse. Mana mouse? Oh, okay, here. How do you get positive? This is negative over negative. How do you get positive? This is negative over positive. This is positive over positive. Okay, so to calculate or to find out your conclusion, your answer actually. So go back to this sign over here. We want something that is less than 0. So I'm looking for a negative answer. So negative answer, I only have one region, which is this one, negative. So my final answer is x in between negative 4 and 3 over 2. Okay, so kenapa kat sini ada equal? Kat sini tak ada equal. So negative 4 adalah bahagian denominator. So denominator takkan ambil simbol equal lah. Bahagian numerator akan ambil equal sebab soalan ni dia ada simbol equal. Okay, so I think that's it for inequalities. So saya bagi take 5 dulu. Sementara saya buat link untuk Google Meet. Lepas tu nanti kita buat Google Meet dan kita akan masuk Google Meet lah. So untuk siapa-siapa yang masih blur lagi, masih ada soalan lagi, boleh tanya dekat Google Meet nanti. Okay, so I'll see you guys later. Thank you class. Bye-bye. Jangan lupa isi attendance. Bye.